He had a $5 million bounty on his head. He was one of the masterminds behind twin attacks on embassies in Kenya and Tanzania 15 years ago that killed more than 220 people. And in Libya over the weekend, US commandos forcibly removed Abu Anas al-Libi from a car in Tripoli and took the suspected al-Qaeda operative into custody. He's now being held on the USS San Antonio out in the Mediterranean Sea. The capture followed an earlier raid in Somalia, where Navy SEALs went in pursuit of a man known as Ikrimah, a high-ranking member of the al-Shabaab terror organization. But due to heavy return fire, SEAL Team 6 made the decision to withdraw from the raid, unable to confirm that their target had in fact been killed. And while the domestic government of the United States may be shut down, the Secretary of State had a single message for the enemies of this nation.
The United States of America will never stop in its effort to hold those accountable who conduct acts of terror, and those members of al-Qaeda and other terrorist organizations literally can run, but they can't hide.
For more now, we're joined by Michael O'Hanlon of the Brookings Institution. Good afternoon, Mike.
Hi, Martin.
From the perspective of American forces, this is obviously a much more risky approach than, say, using drone strikes against terror suspects. But isn't this also a far more effective approach from the point of view of gathering intelligence?
I think that's exactly right. And even though we've been talking mostly about drones these last few months, let's not forget we have a lot of troops on the ground in Afghanistan who have been doing raids like this and continue to do raids like this. And we continue to risk their lives. And as you know, we tragically just lost 4 Americans over the weekend in Afghanistan. In other words, I don't think we've reached some point where the nation will not or cannot risk casualties. And for all the reasons that you just mentioned, it's often quite preferable to approach things the way we did over the weekend in Libya and in Somalia. For one thing, you can also perhaps be a little bit more confident that you're not hurting innocent people, depending on the exact circumstances of where the fight might occur.
Is it your view, Mike, that al-Libi is likely to give us any important, useful information?
There's a decent chance, Martin, because, you know, he's been plugged in pretty well, as far as we know, at various times in the past. Now, it's also possible that he just sort of went to ground and hasn't really been leading a very active life in the terrorism department. I don't know for a fact. But I think it's good that we not just get all in one direction or another, use just one tool in our toolkit. People have been saying for quite some time that it's regrettable that just because, you know, Guantanamo Bay is sort of, you know, no longer a good place to put prisoners, that therefore we seem to prefer to kill suspects instead of arresting them. I think that's a little bit of an oversimplification of the logic. A lot of the reason we kill people in Pakistan, for example, is because we have no choice about doing these kind of raids on Pakistani soil. And so we don't have many other means available besides drones.
Right.
But in general, you want to be able to carry this kind of a raid out, even if you're not sure of the intelligence value of the person you may arrest.
Now, the capture of al-Libi is obviously something of a breakthrough, particularly given his involvement in those horrific attacks, alleged involvement back in 1998. But do we now find ourselves in difficulties with the Libyan government, since their preference, presumably, would be to try al-Libi on their own soil?
Well, you know, I think we have committed a big mistake in regard to Libya, but it's not that one. It's because they don't really have courts. They don't really have a functioning state. We have not helped them get on their feet. We did a very minimalist intervention in 2011 and then essentially left them to their own with best wishes, if that. And so we've had these big debates in the United States about Benghazi. We had this recent raid and now a big debate with the Libyan government. But I think it's all sort of about the wrong question. The right question is, what can we do, even at this point, to try to help the Libyan government develop its courts, develop its army, develop its economy. Right now their oil production is very, very low. The state is probably worse off than it was under Gaddafi, and I think we probably owe them a little better than that.
Michael O'Hanlon of the Brookings Institution. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Martin.